Are we on? Hey, there we are. Good morning. Welcome to the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum, and welcome to the 2024 Western Heritage Awards panel discussion. I'm Seth Spillman. I'm Chief Marketing Officer here at the museum, and I get the pleasure of introducing you to the Master of Ceremonies today, Mr. Rex Linn. So over the last 25 years, Rex has appeared in more than 50 feature films and 45 television shows. He can currently be seen in the recurring roles on Better Call Saul and Young Sheldon. He can also be seen opposite the Reba McEntire in the true life-inspired Lifetime original film, The Hammer, as well as the ABC series Big Sky. Rex's film credits include many prestigious projects such as Django Unchained, Appaloosa, and Wyatt Earp, some Western favorites. He's also known for the classic blockbusters Cliffhanger, Clear and Present Danger, Tin Cup, and Rush Hour, to name a few. He's a great friend of the museum, and we're so happy to have him back, Mr. Rex Linn.
Thank you, sir. Hey. Man, this is as crowded as it's ever been. This is going to be fun. Mainly it's going to be fun because I got a whole bunch of questions, and I didn't tell them what they were, so there's going to be a little shock value going on tonight or this morning. I can't tell you, I've been up here a lot with a lot of people, but today for me is really special because of Tater Tot McEntire and King Fod Shake of the Shifting Sands, Keith Carradine. I want to bring them on out. We're going to get into these questions. It's going to be fun. I got questions from fans, from the museum, from friends, and there's a couple from me. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tater Tot McEntire and King Fod, Shake of the Shifting Sands, Keith Carradine, Reba McEntire. Standing ovation, woo! Thank you. Good night. Well, guys, as I said before, I've got questions from fans and from the museum and from friends, and then I got Rex questions. I don't feel like I'm worthy enough to sit down here with you guys.
Let's not get into that.
Since ladies are always first, let's start with Reba. This is a fan question. I'm going to start with a fan question right away. Throughout your career, you have collaborated with many artists. Is there a dream collaboration you haven't had the chance to pursue yet?
I'm thinking I see a trio right here happening.
Ooh.
Rex, Keith, and Reba.
Count me in.
I'll play the drums.
I mean, he's won an Oscar for his music. I've never done that before.
I'm easy.
But I've only had one hit.
Well, if I had
Well, it was pretty big.
won an Oscar for it, I think I'd choose that.
I think it's a pretty big hit. King Fod. Now, let me tell you real quickly. I have a nickname for everybody. They have to come to me. Hey, White, they have to come to me. They're never premeditated. They have to present themselves. And one day, Keith and I were playing golf. We were filming Last Stand at Sabre River with Tom Selleck. We had a day off. Keith hit his ball in the sand trap on every hole. I'm not kidding you. And I felt bad for him. And so we got to the 18th hole, and this sand trap was so deep, I could just see the head of his club when he was practicing. And he came out of the sand trap, and he didn't look very good. And I said, King Fod, Shake of the Shifting Sands. And he didn't miss a beat, and I got my nickname, and he said, Rex Linn, Cowboy Star. So 2 nicknames happened in a hurry. All right, King Fod, this is a fan question also. Which of your projects has given you the greatest sense of personal satisfaction? Oh, it's pretty deep to start that early, I know, but.
You know, I've had a life in film, television, and theater. And I would have to say that when I was given the chance to do a Broadway musical about Will Rogers, that pretty much.
Woo! That's pretty big. All right, Tater Tot McEntire.
Here.
In addition to growing up on a working cattle ranch, why have you always been drawn to the Western way of life, as in Western movies and the cowboy way of life?
I thought it was really romantic. I thought John Wayne going to save the day, Gary Cooper, Jimmy Stewart, they were always helping the underdog. And I thought that was a great way of life, and that's the life we grew up in, was the Western way of life on the ranch and then also on the rodeo. And everybody helped each other out. That's why.
King Claude. You made your film debut in 1971 in a Western called A Gunfight, starring Kirk Douglas and Johnny Cash. Can you share with us what that experience was like, what it was like? And I added, if you can remember, because it was the 70s. I'm just saying.
Well, I can remember because it was the early 70s. It was amazing. I remember getting the part kind of in a typical way. My agent at the time, my first agent that I ever had, I had just come back to Los Angeles from spending a year in New York doing the Broadway musical Hair. So I had hair. And it was long. It was like down to about here at that point. And I went in and met role because my agent's brother was the producer on the movie. His name was Harold Jack Bloom. And we sat and talked, and then they said they'd love to have me come play the part. It was this young gunslinger who comes to town, and because he's heard about this duel that's been set up between the characters by Kirk Douglas and Johnny Cash. They're going to have a gunfight in the middle of the bull ring, and they're going to charge people money to come watch. Winner take all. So my character is this kid who comes in and decides he wants to get in on the deal and maybe kill one of them first, and then he can be the one that's the winner take all. And I had this meeting, and Kirk Douglas heard about who they cast, and I don't remember whether it happened there in Santa Fe where we shot. I think it must have been there because he took a look at me and he said, wait a second, this kid, there's something too sweet and innocent about him, and I'm going to look bad if I have to kill this kid. So they decided they had to try and toughen me up. And that was my vivid memory of that experience, was suddenly feeling like, uh-oh, I need to step up here. I was 20 years old, and I was utterly green. I had had no experience. Even though I grew up with a father who's an actor, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what a mark was. It was OJT for me. It was on-the-job training. I was learning as I went along, and then to have that added to that was this obligation that I now had to act a heck of a lot tougher than I actually felt. That was a real challenge, but they were all great. Kirk Douglas could not have been nicer to me, and Johnny he was a legend. And he and I were friends over the years, and we'd see each other, and I would always remind him the fact that we both did our first movies together. Yeah, it was my first movie. Of course, I was nothing. It was his first movie, and he was a legend. But he could not have been nicer, too. I mean, it was just, and it's funny, in all of my experience of these amazing, legendary people that I've come across and had a chance to work with, every single one of them was a really good, sweet person.
It's typical of your career, though. You start off with Kirk Douglas and Johnny Cash, man. Come on. That's ridiculous. I did a Frito commercial. And it was here, and they paid me $50. And they didn't like me either. So that was a great answer. Hey, can we be quiet in the back a little bit if you guys want to talk? Can you talk in another room so we can hear, everybody can hear? Okay, now, Reba, This is a question that I want you to prepare yourself for. What are some of the earliest memories of you and your siblings growing up on the ranch? That's a fan question.
Okay, well, I remember Daddy getting us up about 4 o'clock in the morning and going out. Pake and I would go out and get the horses in a 40-acre pasture, and they were frisky and didn't want to be caught. And we'd get them and saddled up and get in, eat breakfast. Mom was getting her makeup on because she had to go to work after we got through. And we'd all load up and go gather the cattle, bring them into the pens and weigh them and get them in the trucks, and they'd ship off to the feedlots. And then Mom would load us kids up because she was the one that ran the scales. And then we'd all load up in the car and go to school, and we were there by 8:15. So we'd already had a pretty good day's work before we had to go to school. So that was not only, that was in the fall during shipping, but if it was wintertime, we were feeding, and if it was spring, we were getting cattle in. And Alice reminded me yesterday that it was nothing to doctor, dehorn, castrate, brand 350 head of cattle before noon. So we got to go in and have dinner, and that was usually mountain oysters that the girls took to the house in a bucket. We sat in the backyard, cleaned them, took them to Mama, and she sliced them and fried them. And she had a cast iron skillet that big, and it set on 2 burners. And we had that for dinner and supper about every day in the spring. We ate good.
Alice is agreeing. The Queen Matriarch is agreeing. King Fod, Shake of the Shifting Sands. This is a fan question. What do you think it is about Westerns that keep people coming back?
Affirmation. It's an affirmative genre. It's about capability, survival, community. It's an affirmative genre where it's all about people who work together and who, under those circumstances, need each other. And in that way is community born. And I think that's kind of at the heart of the genre. And that notion of self-sufficiency, of being able to find a way around a problem, solve a problem with your head and with your brawn if necessary. But I just think, I think that's the key to it, and it's about as American as a thing can be. And I think that's why we all hunger for it. And still.
Yeah, great answer, man. Woo! Museum question. I shouldn't label it museum or whoever it is. Never mind. Let's say it's me. Here's a question. What are the most rewarding parts of being on The Voice, and what are the most challenging parts of being on The Voice?
Rewarding part being on The Voice is to get to listen to all this young talent. They're from all over the country, and they're so talented. And this is the 25th season, and they've been finding these, I'm not going to say young kids, because there was one that was 55 years old that was trying out this season. So they're talented, they're eager, they're sponges, they want to learn. The thing that fascinates me so much is that they've got the nerve, the wherewithal to get up on stage with a great band, but in front of people who've been in the business for a while. I'd be a nervous wreck. I don't know that I could do it at 13 years old. Well, there is one contestant that is. That's the most rewarding. The hardest part, and the one I don't like, is when I have to sit there with my back to the talent singing and I don't turn around, and none of us turn around. That hurts. They're good. They're great. But it's just not what we want on our team. So that's the hard part.
It's hard to watch. We've done it before. It's hard to see parents in the back. That's a killer.
And I don't see it when I'm facing the wall, but when you watch the TV show back, you see Carson up there with the parents. They're going, "Oh, Reba, turn around, Reba, turn around." And I'm like, "Oh my God, why didn't I turn around?" I feel like a jerk. But that's the hardest part.
There's a moment I have to share real quickly. gone to visit Reba a couple of times on The Voice. There's a room back there where all the singers, all the talent hang out. And one girl she just sang a Reba McEntire song. Reba wasn't a part of it. She wasn't being judged or anything. They were pre-taping. And Reba, and I was walking behind Reba, and she walked by and she saw that girl that had just sung one of her songs. And so she just reached over and tapped her on the shoulder. She goes, "Great job." Well, the girl didn't know it was Reba. The girl just went, "Thank you." Oh my God! And she literally got on one knee and put her head down like this, and the other people are going, "Are you okay?" She goes, "It was Reba McEntire." You know, it was, for me, it was a great moment. I'll tell you. All right, Keith.
Yeah.
I know I've asked you some pretty tough ones, but we're going to get tougher.
Uh-oh.
Actually, we're not. I'm going to start with a Rex question. I'm proud of this question. Keith has a lot of history. I mean, he's got history starting in the late 60s and 70s with music, stage, Broadway, movies, television. But in the 60s and the early 70s, you were pretty immersed in the music scene in addition to acting. You started out with acting. Who influenced you in that time frame in the late 60s and early 70s?
I'd have to say one of my most powerful influences when I started learning how to cotton pick and when I wrote my first song was the late Gordon Lightfoot. Oh, wow. I'm a big Gordon Lightfoot fan. Yeah. And he was just a brilliant songwriter. And I also loved his voice. And I remember trying to sing like him, and I never could. But he was a big influence. And then, of course, I kind of came of age in the folk era. So, I was listening to bands like Saturday's Children and Peter, Paul, and Mary, of course, and stuff like that. And then along came Bob Dylan, and he changed everything. And then I started to get real self-conscious about my lyrics because I just didn't think they were smart enough. But somehow, by the time I got to where I wrote "I'm Easy," that was just a straight love song, personal and to somebody. And it's funny when you write like that, you're just telling the truth. You kind of can't go wrong.
Tater Tot McEntire. This is a fan question. Of all the accomplishments you've had in your career, television, stage, movies, and music, is there one moment that stands out the most?
That's a hard one, but I got to say something that's changed my life is the singing the national anthem at the Super Bowl. I didn't get. I got to tell y'all a funny little story. When my manager, Justin McIntosh, called me and said, they've asked if you would like to sing the national anthem at the Super Bowl. In about 3 seconds, it went through my mind of everything I was going to have to do before I got on stage to sing the national anthem. And I was going, well, and Rex said, she'll do it. I'm like, well, wait a second. No, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. You're going to love it. You're going to have a blast. Well, it was in Las Vegas. I always lose my voice in Las Vegas because it's so dry. Well, they told us that everybody has to pre-record. It's mandatory, just in case you get sick, whatever. I said, well, okay, fine. If I lose my voice, I can lip sync. Piece of cake. Ralph Lauren made me a beautiful outfit. We got up there, and Adam Blackstone said, well, what do you want to do for rehearsal? I said, well, let me sing it, see how it sounds. And I did it. And he said, oh, you're going to sing it live. And then I started panicking because that was Friday. We still had 2 more days to go. But then we woke up Sunday morning and thank the good Lord, the clouds all around Vegas were dark, brown, black. They were full of water. And I knew there was going to be enough moisture for me never to lose my voice because of the dryness. So it was just like, hey, we're going to go have fun. And we did. We had a blast. But I was telling Red last night, that Red and Gail and Mike, I was saying, when I got back home to Nashville, I went to the grocery store. I couldn't get past the produce section. Usually I just walk around and get all my groceries. And I was, yeah, we'll take a picture. Yeah, we'll take a picture. But isn't that amazing what television and Super Bowl will do for a career? Been in the business 9 years, and then that's the turning point right there. It was simply amazing. I was flabbergasted, but thrilled to death because there was a unity in that stadium. I could feel it. And it was, boy, when you start singing the national anthem, everybody stands up and put their hand over their heart, and it's just brings everybody together, no matter what your opinion is or what you believe. It was just, I felt it.
It was magical. Tell them about the gospel singers down the hall.
Oh my gosh, they were we were kind of in the cheerleaders' dressing room where I was, and the choir was in the dressing room beforehand, and they were in there rehearsing. Andrew Day was going to sing. They were singing with her, and my gosh, you were going to church that day. They were gorgeous singers. We could sit there and just listen to them. It was wonderful.
I have to share a quick story at the Super Bowl. I was about to throw up. We were in the locker room basically, and she's over there. I don't know. They were just talking about food or something, and I was just thinking we were getting ready to go out in the Super Bowl, and Reba kind of kept looking at me over in the and I wasn't saying a word to anybody. I was like, we're going to walk we're in the underbelly of the Super Bowl. We're going to walk out on the field. But I was nervous, and they were just talking about other stuff. And finally, Reba just walked over and said, are you going to make it? I said, I'm working through it. I said, but you do realize we're getting ready to sing. I said, we too. That's how nervous I was. You're getting ready to sing in the Super Bowl. And she said, yeah, I got that. And I said, but I mean, we're talking 131 million people are about to watch you. She said, I got it, Rex. Just calm down. I was a wreck, man. I'll tell you. It was a great experience. Okay, King Fahd. Oh, this is a good question. I like this. You started on Broadway in Hair in 1969. Was theater always your first love or just your first stop? Was the original plan to stay on stage and make the move to the screen eventually, or not?
I just took things as they came. And Hair came to Los Angeles, and my brother Dave and I, and his good buddy Jeff Cooper, we all went to opening night. And I'll never forget that show. And at the end of it, I was standing on my feet. Everybody was on their feet at the end of that show. And I was standing there. All I could think was, how can I do that? I want to get up there and do that with those people. And within a couple of weeks, they were having auditions, and David and his buddy Jeff, they were both in their early 30s, as were Jim and Jerry, who were the two stars of the show who wrote it. They were also in their 30s. It was a show about kids, but they were both in their early 30s. David and Jeff wanted to audition. They asked me to come play the piano for their audition, which I did. And then Jerry and Jim were sitting there for the audition, and after we auditioned, they auditioned. They asked me, they said, do you sing? And I said, yeah. They said, would you come back and sing? And I said, okay. That's how that happened, and that's how I wound up in that show. And they cast me in Los Angeles. I went to New York and did it for a year in New York. And it was kind of the perfect way to begin because it involved everything. You know, it was acting, it was movement, it was music, it was singing, it was all of that. And I did it for a year, at the end of which time I decided, okay, and there were a lot of kids in that show who just hung in there and kept doing it. And I thought, you know what? I need to move on. I'm going to get too comfortable here because this is a great gig. And so I packed up and drove across country with a couple of friends, the assistant director from the show, Dan Sullivan, and an actress friend of his named Susan Terrell. The three of us drove across country back to California, and within a few months was when I got that first movie role. Now, in terms of what I prefer, there's nothing that makes me happier than live performing. You know.
Great.
It's as good as it gets because it's us. It's an interaction. It's a collaboration between the audience. And so when you're doing theater, you get that. Or when you're doing a sitcom, a 3-camera sitcom with an audience, you get that. Acting in movies is a whole different thing because you have the audience, which is the crew and the camera and your director, and then you're acting with your fellow actors. It's just different. And there's something so wonderful about the live experience that I have to say that is my first love. But I've had such a wonderful life making movies and television shows and stuff. I would never give that up if I can avoid it. I trust I'll keep getting hired. So it's kind of a balance.
Great answer, man. Tater Tot McEntire.
Very good answer.
Great answer. I like this one. What's one piece of advice you wish you had received when you were starting out your career?
Oh my gosh, that's easy. It is. It's so easy. Quit worrying about it. I worried about everything. If you just chill out, let God take over, He's going to run it anyway. If you just get out of the way, it'd be a lot more simple. It'd be a lot easier on you. Get out of the way.
And he put Red Steagall in your path, did he not?
He did. He did. He will. He's got everything lined up anyway. So if you'll just shut up, sit back, listen, watch, learn. Red was in there. Ken Lance introduced me to Red, and Clem McSpadden let me sing the national anthem because Daddy didn't want me up there partying here at Oklahoma City during the rodeo, which I kind of did anyway. I was having a good time. But he thought to keep me busy would keep me out of trouble, and it kind of did a little bit. But it just was so many people that God just said, step right in there, and it just worked. Quit worrying about it.
All right, King Fod, I've got a Rex Linn question. You've done a lot of Westerns, and one of them is one of my favorite Westerns of all time, which is The Long Riders. And give it up for the Long Riders, baby. But here's what I want to know, and you got to be brutally honest. Did all you guys get along while you were making that film? All the brothers, they had the Quaids, the Keaches, the Carradines. There were a lot of macho-ness kind of stuff going around there. Did y'all all get along?
I have to be honest with you, Rex. Yes. It was great. And there's nothing like being on a set with people that have known you from birth. You cannot get away with anything. And that was true for all of us. So, to be out there with people that know you better than anyone, you can't pull anything that you might feel like you could pull under another circumstance. I can honestly say that at the end of shooting that movie, and it went on for 16 weeks because we had some weather problems. We got shut down for a week because a lightning bolt hit the generator and, stuff like that. At the end of that shoot, we all would have gladly gone on for another 16 weeks. That's how much fun we were having. It was kind of grown men, but it was boys camp. We were having the time of our lives, and we got to dress up in all that cowboy gear. We got to get on a horse pretty much every day. It was one of the best experiences of my life, and Walter Hill as our director, he could not have been a better, personality wrangler, as that goes. It was just fantastic. Yeah, we all got along.
Reba? I like this question. This is a double question. I'm going to ask both of you, so you'll have a little time to think about it. Tater Tot, this is a fan question. Other than your boyfriend, and I don't consider myself a celebrity, but who is the last celebrity you texted? You better be thinking too, brother.
Oh, I'm thinking.
That's easy, Red.
When did you text him?
This morning.
How early?
It was.
Y'all are texting in the morning early, are you?
It was after coffee camp.
All right, well, that's a good answer.
We have coffee camp every morning. Yeah.
We do have coffee camp every morning. King Fod is still thinking, who could it be?
Rex, I hate to admit it, but it's you.
Wow.
Because you're the last one I texted, and it was last night.
I feel honored. That's fantastic. Hell, we're in pretty good company, Red. I like that. All right, we're going back to Reba.
Okay.
I'm not going to ask that one just yet. I'm going to wait for that one. I like this question. If you could choose any artist concert to attend, who would it be?
Even if they're not touring right now?
Anybody.
Eagles, the Eagles. And I haven't seen Bruno Mars in a long time, so I'd love to see him also.
I like that. This question's going right over to you, too, Keith. Who would it be? What artist would you like to see right now in concert, if you could attend their concert?
Well, it's impossible because it would have been Gordy Lightfoot, but he's gone, so I can't pick him. If he was out there playing right now, he's a friend and also just a genius, I think, is Tom Waits.
Good choice.
Yeah.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
I saw him one time. It's hard to get through that concert because you want to understand everything, but it's tough.
He's something else. The first time I saw him was at McCabe's Guitar Shop, and when he had his first record out, and I went to see him because I loved what he did on his first record. And we met there, and that's a story I'll tell you later. I don't want to take up everybody's time with it now, but he's an amazing mind.
Love that. All right, we're going to go back to Keith right here. You and Reba have a couple of things in common. You're both were on Broadway in gigantic hits, but you were also in a movie together where you were married. The film was inspired by Reba's hit song, Is There Life Out There? Was making that film fun, and how did you get along with Reba? You better choose this
Let
real
me just
carefully.
say that not only was it fun, but, I've had a lot of opportunities to work with some amazing talent, and every time I get a chance to work with someone who is, in fact, a giant, and you are, I learn. I learn from them, and that was no exception. I learned from you every day. And one of the things about acting is it's just about telling the truth, and this woman cannot lie. So, it was great. And we also had a moment, and I reminded Reba of it last night. She came to set one morning in her new big black fancy car, and I said, "Nice car." She said, "I hate this car." I said, "Why?" She said, "It's got no cup holders." She said, "My pickup truck has cup holders." Never forgotten it. It was great. Great.
I agree 100%. We had fun.
You concur?
I concur, absolutely.
Did you have a problem with the cup holders not being in there?
Dude, I even had to get those little things that you put in right there at the window, because I have to have a place to put my water bottle. Yeah.
It was a Mercedes
Yeah.
without cup holders.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't make that car's not a very
figure.
good car, I'll tell you.
I guess the Germans don't drink water when they're driving. I don't know.
It's not. They get there too fast. They don't need it.
All right, 50 years ago, Reba, you sang the national anthem at the National Finals Rodeo. Now you celebrated that 50th anniversary by singing on the biggest stage that there is, really, is the Super Bowl in Vegas. But you've kind of already answered that question. The experience overall was just fantastic. What was your favorite experience of the Super Bowl, if you had to pick a moment? Was it walking out and hearing the crowd screaming Reba, because I heard that, or was it getting on the stage, or was it when it was over, or was it the day before in rehearsals? What would have been the highlight moment of the Super Bowl for you?
It was a cumulative times, because I got to meet new people. I got to meet new friends, people that I felt like I had known before. I met them throughout the period of the time that we were in Vegas. We got to see great shows. We got to eat great food. And being a part of the Super Bowl, making history with two great teams playing, that I was just thrilled to be there and being mentioned when they would say the 49ers and Kansas City Chiefs that were playing. That was a huge thrill. And to get up there and sit in the suite and watch Usher's halftime, it was just all fun. It was a relief when it was through, but it was the anticipation that was building from the time you said, yes, I would do it, to the time I walked off stage and got up in the suite and sat there with Gwen and Blake and everybody. It was great.
One of the highlights for me in the Super Bowl was the Thunderbirds wanted to come down and meet Reba. I was thinking about my brother who loves aircrafts, and the Thunderbirds came over, and I'm used to this, by the way. When Reba's around, I'm pretty non-existent, and but the Thunderbirds were standing there. And how many times have you been to a Super Bowl party when people are inebriated and they have their own theories of how do the Jets fly over right at the moment that they finish this national anthem? Now, I've heard 20 assessments of that, and none of them were true. So all I wanted to do was ask them, how are you guys going to get flyover? And it was great because right when the Thunderbird pilots came up, they introduced Reba, and they were all looking at Reba, and then they introduced me. They go, and this is her boyfriend, Rex Linn, and all 5 of the pilots went like this. Hey. Anyway, we were, and I had my questions ready. Of course, Reba was just like, hey, guys, how you doing? And I'm like, which pilot am I going to pick out to ask this question? Anyway, do you guys want to hear how they do it? The answer? I'll make it quick. The commander of the Thunderbirds, if you call it, would it be the commander or whoever's in charge, was a woman, and she was about 4 feet tall, and she handled her business, and all these other pilots, these male pilots, were just like, waiting for her to say it's okay to answer. So she picked out this real tall guy. He was cool, and he said, well, we've all been deployed. We've all been in battle. So what happens is we have a target, and we have a GPS, much like you have in your car. Tomorrow, this was rehearsals the day before, tomorrow our target will be your redheaded girlfriend. and what, he was serious. He wasn't like, he was serious, and he said, so they've given us a time code at 1:45. Her song, her length of the national anthem with her was 134.4. I timed it a bunch, because you can bet on it. Anyway, he goes, when we hear go 145, we know, and I interrupted him like an idiot, and I said, so are you guys just flying around? He goes, no, we don't fly around anywhere. We're 90 miles out, and when we hear go 145, we turn, we get 6 feet apart, and our GPS takes us to your redheaded girlfriend. And he said, and no, we're not going to be late, because in any other situation, if we were deployed and we're 2 seconds early or 2 seconds late, it could cost somebody their life. So we will be zoning in on the redhead at 1:45. And they did exactly that. So I thought that was really cool.
Amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
I didn't know how they did it. I didn't either. That's great.
Keith, can you tell us who's been your greatest role model or mentor in your career and what you learned from them or her or him?
My daddy. Yes, sir. Yeah. He didn't tell any of us how to do it. He just talked to us about what to do as a professional. He said, you know your lines, you show up on time, and you hang up your clothes at the end of the day. And temperament, remember this, is nothing more than bad manners. I've never forgotten that.
Write that down. Wow, love that. Love that.
You know what, Tater Tot, I'm going to ask you too. Let's just share that question. Can you tell us who's been your greatest role model or mentor?
Yeah, Mama. Yours was your daddy, mine was my mama. But Mama and Daddy both said, if you say you're going to do something, you do it. No matter if you don't want to do it at the time when you're supposed to do it, you do it. Your word is everything. And you don't lie. And you respect your elders, tell the truth, and show up, be on time, be prepared. And I think that's something that is the greatest lesson or greatest thing we can do for young people coming up in our business is we show up on time, we know our lines, and they're like, oh, crap, well, I got to get my stuff together. Yeah. And so that's the greatest tool and the greatest thing we can do for them.
Absolutely.
Be held accountable for it and be directable.
You know, I'm going to overlap again. I'd like to ask you, Keith, what's the one piece of advice you wish you had received when you were starting out in your career?
Well, there isn't one I wish I'd received because I got one that I've never forgotten that I did receive, and that was from Robert Altman, who told me early on when I was working with him. He said, let me give you a piece of advice, kid. I said, what's that? He said, don't take advice from anybody.
Really? Don't take
Okay, I love that, and I'm stealing that.
And the other thing he said, which has become especially meaningful to me now, was when I sat in the makeup chair on McCabe and Mrs. Miller, and I had this long hair, and he had told me when he met me he wanted me to keep my hair, and I got up there and he sat me down and he said, cut his hair off. And my face fell. And he said, kid, if that's where your ego is, it's in the wrong place.
Wow.
I love that.
Oh, wow. Golly. Plethora of information.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
How are we on time? Is anybody timing? Are we like 30 minutes in, 45 minutes in? Okay. Boy, we got some good questions coming up. Tater Tot McEntire. This will be deep. Be prepared.
Wow.
Are you ready?
Yes, yes.
What's one goal in life you are still trying to achieve? I know, I'm sorry, but I mean, you gotta think about it for a minute. We'll relax, we're good. What is it? Nope. It's a pretty good question.
One goal in life I'm still trying to achieve.
I didn't write the question, but here it is again. What's one goal in life you are still trying to achieve? Nada? Well, you can say that. I mean, that's pretty good place to be in life.
I think the one thing that I have always strived for is happiness. Health, happiness. I've got my faith, stronger than ever. Got my family, my friends, greatest family, greatest boyfriend.
What's his name?
So I'm happy camper.
That's fantastic. How are we on time? How much? 5, 10? What about 5? Okay. Now, let me find this.
Oh, no, yeah.
I love this question. What is it like to grow up in a family of actors? Did that provide motivation, added pressure to succeed, or just was it family support? What was it like growing up in a family of actors? And you were in a household of actors, and all great.
It's funny because my usual flip answer is, well, what was it like not to? Because I don't know anything else. But in terms of the question, it was all of those things. It was intimidating when I realized that I was going to take a crack at it myself. And that was a long time coming. I mean, I'd had a lot of tendencies as I was growing up. I realized I had certain talents. I was artistic. I had a musical ability. And when I was graduating high school, I actually applied to universities as a forestry major. I thought that was what I was going to do. And then I saw the syllabus and I realized, well, this is science. I don't want to be a scientist. I just wanted to go out in the woods and sit with my guitar and write songs and poetry and watch for fires. I said, well, I guess I'll be an actor. But having made that choice, then it was, well, I already had a father who was legendary. I had a brother who was becoming legendary. When I was in high school, David was doing the TV series Shane. So he hadn't become quite Shane Kane yet, but he was extremely accomplished. And so when I went in and started trying to do it myself, I mean, doing hair first was helpful because it was something I could do, but I was always conscious of this enormous shadow and feeling that kind of pressure about having to overcome those predecessors. And there was an epiphany that I came to at a moment when I realized, well, I couldn't outdo either one of them. The only one I might be able to outdo was myself. And so that's where I put my energy.
I'm going to follow this up since we're kind of closing in on time. I got a couple more. Let's stay with you, Keith, for a minute. I asked Mr. Robert Duvall on this very stage and that very seat right there, of all the great roles that he played, where did Gus McCrae in Lonesome Dove sit on the pyramid? His answer was at the very top. You returned to Broadway and played Oklahoma's favorite son with your performance as Will Rogers in the Tony Award-winning musical, The Will Rogers Follies, and you were phenomenal. In the scheme of things, where would you put that performance of Will Rogers on the pyramid?
Tippy top. Tippy top. I mean, to have a chance to thank you. Again, you know, we get these characters to play, and if we're lucky enough to, on occasion, play somebody who existed, you learn from them. You learn from getting inside those people's life and skin, and you know, when you talk about goals, If I have one ever in my life, it's a continuing goal to achieve some kind of wisdom, and I'm still trying. And I got
Me too.
a lot of.
I want that answer too. I like his answer.
But I got a lot of wisdom imparted from reading and learning about Will Rogers, who was a friend of mine once described him as, well, he was kind of a cowboy Buddha. He kind of was. He was so deep, and because of his humor and the way he delivered it, the depth of who he was sometimes got overlooked. But man, I'm telling you, spending those years in that skin was, I'll never forget it.
All right, Reba. Question. Okay. Across your career, you've met kings and queens, presidents, every sort of celebrity in every profession just about. You've been in contact with so many people around the world and touched so many lives. Did all this help prepare you for the rocket ship that you are on now with dating and being involved romantically with a worldwide sex symbol?
What?
What's your favorite song?
Honest,
It's all about wrapping up.
I tell you, nothing has prepared me for you, because you were dropped into my life. I was dropped into your life at the greatest point, and as I said, God's timing is always the best, and thank God for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hey, I want to do it real quick, Kayla, if we don't get in trouble. One question for Keith and one question for Reba from somebody in the audience. Whoever wants to whip out a $100 bill, send it right on over here. All right, go ahead. You raise your hand first. Go right ahead.
Hi, Stacy. I'm not doing any music at all this year because we just needed to take a break because of the voice and hopefully the sitcom going to series. And so it'd probably be 2026 maybe. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Anybody have a question for Keith Carradine? Anybody? Okay, back in the back with a good-looking cowboy hat.
I drew the black bean. He's talking about Dead Man's Walk, where I played Bigfoot Wallace, and we have to draw beans out of a jar to see if we're going to live or die. And if you pick the black one, you died. Oh, no. So I thank you for your sympathy.
Wow. Guys, this wraps it up. Thanks for coming out. We appreciate it. Keith Carradine and Reba McEntire.